Hey everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review, and today we're going to be doing another video game review, and that will be of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D for the Nintendo 3DS. Now I got my copy of Ocarina of Time 3D in the Zelda 3DS bundle pack, which came with the Ocarina of Time 3D and also with a commemorative Legend of Zelda 3DS, which is basically a regular 3DS, but it has really cool Zelda designs on it, which is just badass. And I got the last one in the store, so I am happy. So, anyways, how are we going to go about this review of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D? Because in essence, despite whatever they may add to it, it's just The Legend of Zelda, the game that we all know and love. It's a game that almost all gamers have played, and if you haven't played it, you know about it. It is one of the games that get perfect scores back in the day when it was released, and is a game that's still revered right now, despite the fact that it is a bit dated. So I'm going to approach this review a little differently than I would most other reviews, although when it comes down to my video game reviews, they all seem to be a little bit different from each other. In addition to that, this review may be a little bit quicker than other ones because really it's Ocarina of Time. What can I say about the game that hasn't been said already? Mainly I'm going to be talking about the few new features here and there and how well it plays on the 3DS. So, Ocarina of Time 3D is basically the game that we all know and love, Ocarina of Time, only ported to the 3DS. However, there are slight changes here and there. Most notably is the fact that the graphics on the 3DS version is greatly improved from the GameCube and the N64 ports of Ocarina of Time. The items are a little bit different where how they are equipped. For example, like the boots you equip like a normal item, similar to how they were done in Twilight Princess. And in addition to that, there's a few new features added on here and there. Like Sheik says in the Temple of Time that you can go back to your bed as a child and replay boss battles. I haven't done this yet, but hey, Sheik says it can happen. It can happen. Besides that, for the most part, it is the same Ocarina of Time game that we all know and love. Just with better graphics, the boots are worn a little differently, and also a few added gameplay features. Now, I'm going to be honest, when this game was announced, I was a little concerned on exactly why they were releasing it on the 3DS, especially so close to the release of Skyward Sword. Not to toot Skyward Sword's horn too much, but Skyward Sword is the most innovative of the Zelda games, particularly with the Wii Motion Plus and the sword play. And Ocarina of Time, by its own right, despite how great of a game it is a bit dated of a game. So I was concerned on playing the Skyward Sword game and then going to play Ocarina of Time and noticing how much of a difference there is between the two. Even doing that with Ocarina of Time and, say, Wind Waker or Twilight Princess, it is noticeable. However, it's a little bit more forgiving between Twilight Princess and Wind Waker to Ocarina of Time because those games don't have the Wii Motion Plus, they don't have the one-to-one sword play game control that Skyward Sword does. But see, Ocarina of Time has a bit of a help here when it is ported to the 3DS. It's the fact that it's ported to the 3DS. There is no real motion control on this except for the gyroscope where if you have it open and say if I shoot an arrow, I need to actually move this to shoot the arrow. It's ported to the 3DS, so that means that you're going to use this to move around. You're going to use this to use your items. You're going to use the touchscreen to use your item. Block, lock on. It's very similar to the original Ocarina of Time on the N64, and when it comes down to it, you can't really do a comparison between the two because they're on two different systems. So in saying that, it actually works out fairly well how this was ported to the 3DS. The game controls actually feel pretty fluid, with the exception of my only complaint when it comes down to the game controls is, if you can see there, right here, A is going to be your roll button, B is going to be your sword button, and then Y and X are two inventory items, and then you can click on the screen for two more inventory items. One thing that bothers me is the fact that I have to go from A to roll to B to sword slash. I'd rather it be A to roll and Y to sword slash. It just feels more comfortable with my thumb, and it feels a little bit more natural going left to right than angling it down. But besides that, the game control actually feels very natural, and with the exception of that one small part, I'm actually very, very happy on how this plays out. It plays like Ocarina of Time, when I played on the N64 or the GameCube. So, in saying that, it does a great job. The graphics are beautiful. I thought they were just going to do the textures and the skin and the faces, which they did, but they also did the whole entire scenery. They added little extra details that weren't there beforehand, never impairing what the actual game was beforehand, only adding to the magnificence that is Ocarina of Time. So the graphics are really good. And it's graphics like these and gameplays like this that really gives me hope for the next Zelda game that gets ported to the 3DS. That isn't a remake. See, as much as I like the main Zelda games, like the ones that are ported to the main systems, which are always my favorite Zelda games, I'm also a really big fan of the handheld Zelda games. I liked Oracle Seasons a lot. I played the shit out of that game. I liked Spirit Tracks. I liked Phantom Hourglass. I think everyone liked Link's Awakening. I don't talk about Oracle of Ages, though. I didn't really like that one. But for the most part, the games that were ported to the Game Boy were good games. Even some remakes like the Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past or the Four Swords that you can play on A Link to the Past. However, I'm really hoping that the next Zelda game will be an in-depth Zelda game, or the next Zelda game on the Game Boy will be an in-depth Zelda game that has a lot of content and has really good graphics. And an Ocarina of Time port to the 3D with the graphics improved and with all the gameplay that we all know and love from the original ports gives me that hope. Granted, they didn't have to do too much other than update the graphics. It's not like they had to start from the ground up and make a game. All they had to do was take everything from Ocarina of Time and spiffy it up a bit. It still gives me hope, so I'm looking forward to what happens with Zelda games in the future. I'm not going to comment too much on how the 3D works. The 3D actually works pretty well on the 3DS when it comes down to most games. The only problem I have is the gyroscope when you use it to aim stuff, which you don't have to, but it actually works out pretty well. It does interfere with the 3D, so I just don't put the 3D on. But when the 3D on, it is fun, it looks good, links look good, it's overall good. So let's get into the verdict on whether or not you should pick it up. Sounds like I've been giving this a lot of praise, but this isn't necessarily for everyone. Ocarina of Time 3D is a great game. It is the classic Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time game that we get, only with added features and updated graphics. However, I recommend this more to the most hardcore Zelda fans or Ocarina of Time fans, or people that haven't played Ocarina of Time. This is a great way to access the game if you're younger or if you just gotten into video games and you haven't played Ocarina of Time yet. It's a good way to get into Ocarina of Time. The only thing I have to say is that it's not absolutely necessary if you played Ocarina of Time 9 million times like I have. I played Ocarina of Time time and time and time again, where I can breeze through the game. I've only played a few hours of it, and I'm already past the Water Temple. Well, more than a few hours. I'm quick when it comes down to this game because I've played it so much. So despite how good looking of a game is, you kind of go through your motions eventually. So this is more or less for the most hardcore Zelda fan like me, or it is for a person that hasn't played Ocarina of Time yet. But if you do decide to get it, it gets all the content of the Zelda Ocarina of Time game that we, again, all know and love. So if I had to give this a rating out of 10, I would give it a 9 out of 10. For the fact that it looks good, it has all the classic gameplay that Ocarina of Time. And the only reason why it's not a 10 out of 10 is because despite the fact they add more to the game, they don't add enough more to the game to really make me say that this is a 10 out of 10. Ocarina of Time will always be a 10 out of 10 for its genre, for its generation. However, it is starting to get a bit of a dated game after a while, and that happens to all games. Some games can be timeless, but their value goes down just a little because other games come out. If you compare Super Mario, the original, to the one that was ported to the DS, I mean, Super Mario is still a classic game, but the DS just basically is an improvement on it. That's what happens with games. My favorite game right now eventually it's going to become dated. That's just what happens with games. But I was thoroughly enjoyed with Ocarina of Time. I really did enjoy. I haven't quite fully beat the Ocarina of Time 3DS version. I've beaten Ocarina of Time so many times beforehand that I'm actually taking my time with this. But it's enjoyable. I do recommend it if you fall into the categories that I placed it in, and it is a nostalgia trip like you wouldn't believe. So I'm going to end this review here. This is Andrew saying peace out for now.